Emil Frankenheim, a creative scholar of the Jewish religion, has shown great insight into how we make such a decision in the Jewish thought of Emil Frankenheim. I'm not going to go into it because it's kind of a complicated argument, but it's a very interesting read. When you've established a firm basis for dialogue, where you trust each other, ask them to explain things you find troubling. Number 8, be aware of problems with language. The Old Testament and Bible were written in Hebrew, and the Quran was written in classical Arabic. Because few people speak classical Arabic, it is often difficult to readily understand some sections of these writings. I'm going to go on and pass over some of the reasons for this. Hebrew is another Semitic language with similar problems in that very often in the written form vowels are left out. The New Testament was written in Greek, and there were several translations, so one must be careful when reading the text not to immediately assume you know its full meanings. Roman Catholic liturgy was written in Latin until 1964. Then it was translated in local languages so people could better understand them. But even in local languages like English, there are many versions of the Bible. In Islam, many believers do not understand Arabic and must rely on others. In fact, in all the great religions, there are adherents who can't read at all and must rely on the trustworthiness of their teachers. This is common in Afghanistan today, for example. This fact alone leaves room for less scrupulous teachers of sacred texts to interpret the text for their own ends. This has created a great deal of division among the adherents of the main religions. Number 9, see the sacred text in its context and time frame. One must always be aware that sacred texts were written at a given time, place, and one must sometimes take this into account when reading the text for true meaning. For example, in the New Testament, Jesus offers advice to slaves on how to conduct themselves with respect to their masters. This was necessary because there were many slaves at the time, and they needed spiritual guidance as well as everyone else. But no Christian today would ever suggest that Jesus or Christianity was in favor of slavery. Cultural versus religious practice. We need to learn to watch for things that are cultural but are not really a basic tenet of the religion, because many people confuse cultural practices with religious beliefs. Next, be aware of how easy it is to disagree with others, even where we agree on the facts and the conclusions of a moral teaching. We still find little trouble in finding a dispute with those who are different from us. This is why there can often be disputes among those of the same religion, such as the fighting that went on in Northern Ireland among Christians in the 20th century. Number 12, look at the history of conflicts to see how they developed. This may sometimes help you understand where the parties are coming from, and may help you understand why each party takes the position that they do. Understanding the facts is often the first step to meaningful dialogue. Finally, do not judge others. Think about what's really hardest in your faith. The hardest part of living your faith is not the prayers or fastings, or going to church or to the mosque. Think of the 10 commandments given to Moses. Few of us are tempted to commit murder, except perhaps in traffic jams. But what is much harder than all of these things is to be nice to somebody that we don't like, to be generous to those who treat us badly, and perhaps hardest of all is not to judge others. How am I doing?
Yeah.
Okay. Life is a personal journey, and in the end, it is not what others did, but rather what you did that matters. Gulen goes on to say, those who want to reform the world must first reform themselves, purify their inner worlds of hatred, rancor, and jealousy, adorn their outer words with virtue. Those who lack self-control, self-discipline, and refined feelings may seem attractive and insightful at first. However, what they inspire in others disappears quickly. Mr. Gulen was greatly influenced by Sufis and the Sufi path, where one moves toward truth and personal perfection through love and devotion. In conclusion, Vitetta Gulen has set an example for us on how to open dialogue with those who differ from us in their beliefs. This must not only include people of other faiths, but also of those who have no knowledge of faith or who are skeptical of it. Together we can come to understand each other and appreciate that we are all part of one big happy family and march side by side on our journey through life. If we as individuals extend our hands and our hearts to others who differ from us, we help to make mankind's journey one of peace and harmony. Thank you very much.
In society, and the priority of science and engineering and its obligation to work for the benefit of society. Now, there's no doubt that the formation of the engineer, okay, in university and also within his in the spiritual context as well is necessary for his being able to contribute effectively in society. However, the prevailing ideology in this world, which is global capitalism, okay, has as its priority profit, which is frequently, if not sometimes opposed to the benefit of society. And although engineers have the power to shape society because they have the tools and the knowledge, okay, of science and technology, it is quite often the so-called monsters, as Gulen describes them, that actually subjugate the engineers and use them as tools to create the atrocities we see today in terms of the environment and also the spiritual condition of society. So the question is given the reality, okay, of global capitalism, what is the engineering student and the eventual engineer to do when, fine, after being exposed to the nobility of science and engineering and the beauty of it all, the mathematics and the physics behind it, when he actually goes and gets a job and is told the very first day in the corporation that your main function is to contribute not to the good of society, not to help mankind, but to augment shareholder value. What's the poor boy to do?